Welcome back in to the UConn Baseball 2025 preview. I'm Chris Jones, and today we will preview the pitching staff. As yesterday, preview the hitters with Coach Horgan. Today we're with pitching coach Josh McDonald. J Mac, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jonesy, for having me.
All right, so for today, this is how we're going to kind of break it up. We're going to talk about the returners that were able to get on the mound last year. Then we'll talk about some returners who we didn't see pitch last season for the Huskies. And then we'll hit on the transfers and the incoming freshmen. So let's start with the returners that were on the mound for you last year. And let's start off with a couple guys we didn't think would be in uniform this year for you with your preseason pitcher of the year, Big East pitcher of the year last year, Ian Cook, and your closer, Brady Atham.
Yeah, it was I wouldn't say it's totally shocking. With 20 rounds, it makes it harder than ever to get drafted. But certainly a surprise. And once all the dust and tears kind of settle there after, knowing that they're not going to get picked up, we wanted to make sure that we let them know how excited we were to have them back. When you get guys of not only that caliber in terms of how well they can throw a baseball, but that they've done it at a high level in our uniform. We were pretty excited to get them back. So, and it just sets such a great tone. You get, Gabe Van Emmon went off this summer and he did really well in the Cape, and then, Cook has thrown really, really well this fall and this winter. He's in great shape. He looks great. Thomas Ellison had a great summer. He looked really good this fall. His stuff looks fantastic, and having a guy like Brady kind of being able to knowing that you have a guy that can finish off games and has done it a lot. That's a really good place to start. So, we always talk about recruits and who you're bringing in, and it's nice to have four guys that could have all been drafted and picked up last year, kind of heading big pieces to your rotation.
We got a little bit of a glimpse of this guy, Ben Schild, yet last year, and could potentially, after that start against UC Irvine, where it's like, man, this guy could potentially be a weekend guy, but unfortunately just got injured for you guys, and we didn't see him the rest of the year. What do you expect out of a guy like him? What do you expect out of a guy like obviously Tommy Ellison that we've seen on the mound? Just a couple, starter type guys for you.
Yeah, again, I mentioned Tommy. Tommy's got to make the jump. He's been, it seems like right on the verge of doing it every year here. Um, and for whatever reason, the year just hasn't worked out for him. The season just hasn't taken off the way we've expected that it should. I think this has been probably his best body of work. Um, in terms of a calendar year for him coming in. So we're excited about that. Ben's a little banged up right now. That's kind of been his story so far with us. He never seems to be 100% yet. Um, but when he does get on the mound, he tends to get guys out. We got to find a way to get Ben. Ben just, throwing 60 feet 6 inches more often, because when he does, he's going to really help us. But, other guys there that, that we expect to really be able to contribute. Sean Finn is a kid that, big arm, went off this summer, kind of worked on his control a little bit. When he's in the strike zone, good things tend to happen. Um, you know, Charlie West was a guy who went off again, last summer. Has looked a lot better. This preseason he added a changeup. His curveball's a little bit more consistent. His overall arm strength is pretty consistent. I think a lot of times with freshmen, they find it kind of difficult to go through a season as strenuous as ours. They have to start earlier. It goes longer. And I thought, it looked like he kind of had a little case of dead arm by the middle of the spring last year, and that's a really tough thing for a freshman. I think he's put some good weight on. And then, Hector Alejandro, he last year he was coming off a pretty devastating injury, or a few. And he got to go off this summer and compete, and he pitched a lot. And he does give us a veteran presence. We know he's always going to compete. We know he's always up for the job that way. But I'm hoping that with more time to prepare, he can give himself a chance to get more quality innings for us this year.
A really intriguing group are the guys that were on your roster last year that we didn't get to see pitch. Obviously, Husky fans know Jude Abadessa, who threw a couple years ago but was out last season. Just to talk a little bit about this group, a group that includes, Devin Wolf, Kyle Peters, Frank Spirito, Thomas Galusha, Gio Conti.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna be good this year, if we're gonna reach the heights that we think we can reach, these guys are gonna have to step up, and for one reason or another, many of them were just banged up last year and couldn't contribute, so they kind of had to sit on the sideline. Um, or they just weren't ready because they were freshmen. They're going to have to not be redshirt freshmen. They're going to have to be more like sophomores and juniors. But all of them really bring pretty big time stuff. All these guys can throw the ball into the mid 90s. Obviously, Jude probably throws the ball close to hardest on our team. Um, so we just have to play catch up in terms of getting these guys to maybe be a little bit more consistent in the strike zone. But I wouldn't be surprised if two or three of those names are guys pitching in key spots come the end of March, early April for us. We just got to get them out there, kind of see what it looks like. See what their sea legs look like, and I really do. I really do believe that a few of those guys are going to really help us. Frank Spirito's probably behind that group that you listed there. Um, but he should be back, I think, in the next couple of weeks, at least competing versus batters again. He throws a lot of strikes, but again, I've loved what I've seen in terms of stuff from all those guys. I think Wolf, Galusha, Abadesa, they have back end reliever sort of stuff to them. I think Peters is a weekend rotation starter for us in the future here. It's just going to be, how quickly can we get them on the mound and how quickly can they show us that they're ready to be big contributors early.
Again, over the summer, you're kind of able to supplement your pitching with a bunch of these transfer guys that you're able to go out and get. Listen some of these guys off. Evan Hamburger, you have Hutchinson, Pudvar, Shaw, Caruso, and then unfortunately, obviously, Paxton Myers is out with injury from Brown. But just kind of tell us a little bit about these guys who will be pitching a UConn uniform for the first time.
Yeah, I'll start off with Paxton. Paxton's kind of I don't know, he's gonna kind of be like a long-term investment. I was hoping to bring in a starter because I definitely thought I was losing Cook. I thought there was no way we were getting Cook back, and I thought there was a really good chance that we wouldn't get Ellison either. So it was like, all right, I got to bring in a veteran arm, and Cook comes back, and unfortunately, Paxton, who was dealing with some elbow stuff last year, it just he couldn't really deal with it much further than the fall for us. So we're going to get an all Ivy competitor for us next year, which it looks like if there was some serendipity or luck there, that's probably where we caught it. Where a guy is going to be able probably to step right in and join our rotation when we may have a couple more openings. But the other guys, it's you know, I'll start off with. Hamburger was a guy I saw at the MWAC showcase. I, went out to the Pacific Northwest last year, looking for some left-handed pitching. I saw him. He, kid with some good stuff. We brought him out. I really loved his attitude. I think he's a team guy. I think he really does seem to fit in right away, even though he's from Montana. He's our first Montana guy ever, and he's been great, hard worker. Doesn't seem to be really, really scared or rattled out there of the competition. Um, Hutchinson was a kid that pitched in front of us during a game that we were winning against Central Connecticut, and he really competed really well. And I pretty much forgot about him, and then he went into the portal. I think when we were in the regionals, and it just so happened where um, he went into the portal, and I knew that we were going to need some left-handed pitching, um, especially after losing, Coe and Sanella and oh, I know I'm missing
And
one.
Quinny.
And oh, another one too. Oh my God. Tamara's teammate. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
Finnegan. Kieran.
Finnegan, my
Yeah.
God. Sorry, Finnegan. So I knew we were going to be losing left-handed pitching, and I reached out, and he I guess he has some connection. I think his sisters went to UConn, so it was like a slam dunk. Like, yeah, well, why not? And then so that's kind of how the process started with the transfers. I had those guys, and then Shaw went in there. We were looking for a guy who was able to pitch some big innings, and he did that in Manhattan. And I know that he was recruited by Mike Cole, who helped recruit that really good team at Fairfield, and he helped bring Manhattan back around. Now he's at Army, and I've always respected the work that he's done. And after we got Shaw, I was still looking for some left-handed pitching, and he kind of reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I think you really have to go after our guy Pudvar." And I don't love bringing in guys who are injured. I think it's kind of tough. I think it's kind of hard because you have to one come back from an injury and you have to you know beat out guys on a really good pitching staff. But he convinced me. He convinced me that if we're looking for a competitor, that we have to go after Ollie. And I thank God that he convinced me on the phone because Ollie seems to be all that. I don't know. I could see Ollie being a weekend starter for us. I could see him kind of filling a Fogel role for us. I could just see him doing a lot of really good things for us. He throws a lot of strikes. Um, he kind of had. I think he kind of gives off that professor look, where you don't think you're getting a guy that can go out there and beat you, and then all of a sudden, here comes 90-91 with really good stuff. So, we're really happy. He has not been able to pitch as much as the other guys, but in the few outings he's been able to show, he shows that he can throw strikes. I don't think he's gonna be afraid of the limelight. I mean, he could have been the best pitcher on Manhattan's team last year if he wasn't hurt. So, we think we got a really good steal there. And then, JT's really a guy who stuff wise, the sky's the limit. Again, he was kind of hampered with an injury last year at Miami. He wasn't able to pitch this summer. He was hampered this fall with that injury. It still kind of comes and go on him. So, in terms of consistency, I don't. It's not there yet. And because of the injury, he wasn't able to really see crazy strides in terms of his strength this fall. So that's one that what I'm hoping for JT is that, later on in the spring, as he's able to throw a little, every week for the next 3 weeks to a month, we can see just more consistency in his outings because when he's on, he gets a ton of swings and misses. He's a terrible at bat for a lefty. Um, but there are times where the injury still kind of catches up to him, and his mechanics kind of fall short for him. So again, I just think that's one of those things where he can kind of be he could be a nice steal for us later on in the spring, as long as things continue to progress the way they have over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
We'll finish up with those freshmen.
Oh yeah, we haven't talked about them. Okay.
There's only four of them.
Okay.
It's an interesting group in the sense that Caden Suki has looked awesome in the fall, awesome in the preseason.
Yeah.
The other three have kind of dealt with injuries, so we've only
Yeah.
seen them kind of sporadically. So obviously, kind of talk. It's Drew Smith, Owen Norrell, Suki, and then Cole Taylor are your four true freshmen.
Yeah, I'll talk with the three other guys first. It kind of seems to be a trend here that the guys that we end up recruiting are usually come in banged up, and I got to figure kind of a way to stop that here going forward because I just feel really really bad for them. They come on in and they're not what they were when we recruit them, and then they gotta play catch up with that. On top of that, they're probably feeling all the pressure from being around our guys and seeing, obviously, college baseball is older, so you're around older guys, you're around guys that know what they're doing, and they're going to probably be more talented, at least maybe not more talented than you are, but certainly more talented of a pitching staff than you've ever been on. So I think all those combinations make it really hard for those guys to really, really feel comfortable right away. But Cole Taylor has a really good arm. For whatever reason, he's still having some issues coming back from TJ, where it's there one day, it's not there the other. Um, Owen Norrell, I think it's going to be just kind of getting his arm ready. He was a football player in high school, so I think you know all this throwing. I think there are just times where his consistency just it's not always there. But he's got a great frame. He's a really good athlete. He's a hardworking kid. He's a super respectful kid. We think that he has a chance there, to make a pretty big jump here in the future. And then Drew Smith, he may end up being one of the hardest throwers that we've ever had here. Again, he's just a guy who, coming off an elbow injury. I will say he's ahead of where I thought he'd be. I thought he'd have no chance of being physically ready for us by May, and he has been able to face hitters here in the last couple of weeks. I still just think that he's just kicking some rust off, and we won't have any clue on how good he's going to be until later on in the spring. Now the Suki's different, man. Suki's different. You don't you don't tend to get freshmen like him too often in terms of just the maturity and approach to it. He has a little bit of a cyborg sort of vibe to him. I think he laughs, but it's still it still tends to be unknown about him. But in terms of baseball, he gets that. He gets that. He understands that. He understands how to get guys out and how to use his pitches. And he wants to be really good. He is not afraid of competing. He is not afraid of beating guys out that way. Um, it's been a while since I've had a freshman like this. I think the last one that was this close in terms of just being ready to really possibly accept that task was Fioli. I think Fioli was probably the closest in terms of just, again, if we needed to start him this weekend, I think we could do it. Um, but again, I think he's probably have to take a couple small bites early, but he's going to be pitching big innings for us, whether it's, the first pitch of the game or possibly having to throw the last pitch of the game. I know he has the respect of his teammates, he has the respect of the coaching staff. And again, he is just, it's a really awesome piece to kind of build not just your rotation this year around, but your future rotation around, knowing that you have a guy like that, a guy who takes it really seriously. And again, the future's bright for all those guys.
Do you want to break now who the weekend rotation is going to look like in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, sure. We're going to start off with Van Emmen on Friday, Cook on Saturday, Ellison on Sunday. Um, hopefully, if we have a chance to get a save in the ninth inning, Afton gets the first crack at that as well. Besides that, that's going to be the real key of the season is, can we figure out, you know, how to use these pieces pretty early. Coach Penders, what I really like about Coach is that he set up a really easy schedule for us to where, we're playing a lot of lightweights early on, so we can kind of play around with it with our pieces a little bit. Um, but no, in all seriousness, like that's probably going to be our biggest hurdle. Like last year, I think a lot about our early season struggles, and we did have a couple guys who were Jekyll and Hydes on the mound as starters, but really it was once we figured out Braden Quinn was the best left-handed reliever in the country, we took off.
Mhm.
We were a lot different team end of March than we were early February. You know what I mean? And that's something that, that's something that just tends to be, organic. Hopefully we can guess right in the first couple weeks so we don't dig ourselves into a hole. But, that's going to be our real struggle, I think, early on. I really love this team. I love our defense. I hope our pitchers understand that our defense is going to be a strength this year. I think we can pick it in the infield. I think we can, chase it down the outfield. I think that we can catch and throw guys out behind the dish. So, that should be a real big strength. I think we're going to score some runs. I think we're going to be pretty exciting that way. It's just, can we find the guys, can we find what guy gets what outs in what inning and what situation as early as possible? And like I said, last year, it just took us a little too long to figure that out with Braden. The year before, I think we figured out with Fogel pretty early, and all of a sudden, that team kind of took off. So that's going to be, I think, our real big test. Can we find out who's going to be able to, bridge wins for us and be able to get big outs for us early on?
If things are going well, is Brady limited to just the three outs in the ninth? Would you like to keep him in just the three outs, or would you extend him for, four or five outs to lock down a game?
Yeah. I think that's probably something, I think that's something Brad probably wants. I think Brad wants more than just the last three outs. And I think last year, I know he always brings up, the home runs he gives it to Tibbs. That was a terrible pitch call. I should have called the changeup and I called the fastball, and Tibbs got it. But what you forget is that Brady was out there in 110-degree heat.
Three
I
and
think
two thirds, I think
yeah,
career
yeah,
yeah.
and and his stuff wasn't dropping. So I think for him, he's earned that right. That if the game's on the line in the eighth, then we're going to him in the eighth. If the game may be on the line in the seventh, and it's Sunday, we may be going to him in the seventh. He is, he's our captain. He's the guy that they're going to have to go through. But what I hope is that we have a few guys that I feel like in the past couple of years, we've really had to lean on a few guys pretty heavy to figure things out. And, by the end of the year, guys join them. Like I think about last year, Sanella was really good at the end of the year. Ellison jumped in at the end of the year. Finnegan was really good at the end of the year. I think one year in 22, Kirby joined at the end of the year. I need a few guys earlier so I'm not leaning too heavy on, one or two guys over the first 6 weeks, just so we can pull out of these really tough weekends with wins. That's the problem when you run a really tough schedule, is that, you may have to lean on some of these guys early on. Hopefully some of these guys have some success early and we can have kind of the way we feel kind of towards the end of last year in Oklahoma, where it's like, all right, I got 4 or 5 guys here going into this game where I feel really, really good at getting out. So
Awesome. Great stuff as always, J Mac. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, Jonesy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.